public, private, and volunteer partnership. I'm going to play a short video that will explain the program, and then I will update you afterwards on the progress.
Trees for Woolwich has been focused on increasing canopy cover through park plantings, tree giveaways, and the creation of the Elmira Nature Reserve. In this time of climate crisis, we decided we needed to do something bold and impactful to address climate change. We have launched the biggest roadside reforestation project since the 1890s with a plan to plant 22,000 roadside trees in 3 years, which will grow into 800 acres of tree canopy cover at maturity. Studies have shown that the most cost-effective carbon sequestration lies in planting trees. Imagine if all our rural roads were to look like this: tree-lined, calm, healthy, and beautiful. Perhaps you also recognize the loss of the large old maples which used to line our rural roads. There have been no rural roadside plantings in the region in the past 10 years. Imagine roadside wildlife corridors that would support declining biodiversity. Trees provide urgently needed environmental benefits. The 80-year cumulative capture from roadside trees is equivalent of taking 196 cars off the road every year for 80 years. Trees divert stormwater from running off into the ditches and causing erosion and flooding. Trees absorb airborne pollutants and lower roadside temperatures. Imagine if we were to build our own highly visible park and wildlife corridor, increasing the canopy and carbon capture along the 335 kilometers of public rural roadsides. We've imagined it too. In fact, we've done more than imagine it. Thousands of trees have already been planted in the past year. You can see the start that we have made along several Woolwich roadsides. Each tree gets a tree shelter, a cocoa mat, and a stake. This helps preserve moisture for the tree and prevents predation from animals and machinery, all designed to increase the survival rate. Some of the small trees are already pushing their way out of the tree shelters. Our innovative planting process and the use of volunteer time has reduced our cost to $15 per tree planted and maintained. By contrast, a tree planted by the region costs in the neighborhood of $700. We have already planted 2,000 trees on regional roadsides with an 80% survival rate after the first year. To finish the job, we need the region's support to make this cost-effective climate change adaptation possible. Thank you.
This project aligns with the regional strategic plan under the heading of climate-aligned growth, which says that it will use a climate adaptation lens to reimagine infrastructure, land, services for growth, and which pledges to work collaboratively with Transform Waterloo Region, area municipalities, businesses, and community partners to integrate infrastructure planning and adaptation. And that partnership is exactly what we are. This has been made possible by a fabulous partnership between our volunteers, the Township of Woolwich, which has provided both funding and staff time, a number of corporate and private donors who are excited about this. Here in the region, your arborist, Bryden Rayner, and your forester, Albert Hoving, have been very supportive. To date, however, the only regional monies in this initiative is $5,000 that we received last year from the Regional Stewardship Fund. This project is both cost-effective and highly visible as we are scurrying around looking for ways to contribute to climate adaptation. I appreciate that money is tight, but this is a low-cost project with very high impact. I would urge you to scour the regional sofa cushions to find the money needed to match Woolwich's commitment, who have committed $50,000 a year for 2 years. That's my submission. I believe you all received the written version, which goes into all of the benefits for trees over and above climate adaptation, but I would entertain any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Inge. We do have a few questions. Councillor Shantz. Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming in, Inga. Inga is one of our environmental leaders in the township. She's been doing all kinds of leadership since I can remember. And thank you for spearheading and working with others on this initiative. So is the spring planting done? Where are you in the planting?
We are in the middle, well, we are almost wrapped up with the spring planting will be ending on Friday. We've been planting since April 1st. I'm pleased to say that the planting is ahead of schedule. 4,000 trees were scheduled to be planted this spring. 4,800 will be in the ground by the end of Friday. That gets us to halfway through this project. There are about 11,000 trees have been put in to date.
Okay, if I could, just one more. Yeah, thank you for that. It's exciting. You can see all the little plugs, the plastic. I've had lots of people ask me what the plastic sleeves are for, but
the region has signs in the works. I'm not sure what the timeline is for that, but it would be a good idea to get those up.
Okay. I was talking to Mark Bauman at the Volunteer Appreciation and to you. Trees for Woolwich over the years has planted, is it 73,000 trees so far?
That's correct. It's about that number, yeah. Which
is remarkable over and above the roadside tree planting. So I think the ask of $50,000 a year for 2 years is very reasonable coming from the region, and
I think I did the breakdown in the written material. It amounts to a contribution from the region of about $4.40 a tree.
On a $15 tree.
On a $15 tree, that's right.
Maybe we can do more, Council.
Thank you, Councillor Shantz. Councillor McCabe.
Through you, Chair, and thank you very much, Inga, for coming in and sharing this program. And wow, that's incredible, 73,000 trees planted. Kudos to you and the team doing that, and the volunteers, and I know there's some staff involvement too. But
a lot of people are involved.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. Just a question, I was wondering, have you heard the University of Waterloo has recently launched an institute called the Future of Cities Institute?
Yes. Yeah.
And they're also, like, we're doing some work with the University of Waterloo around tree planting, where they're helping to identify like the right kind of soil and model like pollution from the traffic and things like that, to help us figure out like what's the best type of tree to plant where and the soil conditions and all that. So I don't know if you've connected. My question is, have you connected with the University of Waterloo, or to just, on this Future of Cities Institute, or some of the work that they're doing that may help you with some of this? I mean, you already have an 80%.
That advice. We haven't connected with that organization in particular. We've been working with the Grand River Conservation Authority and also the project manager for this whole roadside initiative, Mark Schwartz, is a landscape professional. He owns a landscape company and has been in the business for upwards of 20 years.
Well, if it's of interest, I'd be happy to make a connection. My other question, it might be more for staff, is just because regional staff had talked a few months ago about tree beautification and beautification of roadways and things like that. So I'm just wondering if any of what Inga's talking about fits into what staff had been talking about earlier around beautification on roadways and things like that, and if there's maybe some synergy there.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So along with Trees for Woolwich, we do have other not-for-profit partners, and yes, looking to all of the things that Inga has mentioned are all the things we're interested in well in terms of coverage and heat island effect mitigation and those pieces. So absolutely, yes.
I am aware that, and that's one of the points, that this particular project is quite scalable. So at the moment, it's centered around Woolwich because that's where we have our volunteers. But there are Wilmot is actively looking at a similar model. outside the region, Mapleton is similarly interested, so.
And maybe it could just be this could be integrated through the integrated mobility plan or something of that nature. I'll just leave it with staff.
I'll turn this on. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. Your project is centering on maples, but you will be having all different kinds?
Yes.
Yes.
The title is Bring Back the Maples because what we're basically hearkening back to is in the 1880s, the province of Ontario actually had a tree planting program where if landowners planted along their rural roadsides, and they were largely maples at that point, and they survived for 5 years, they got 25 cents apiece.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the big old majestic trees that are left on our roadsides are from that planting over 140 years ago.
Yeah, because I was also, well, as you know, for disease prevention, you don't want...
You don't want monoculture. No,
Right.
we've learned that
Yeah.
lesson for sure. No,
And-
we try to prevent the right tree in the right place. So depending on the site, we plant a large variety of trees. If we have hydrolines, we only plant short stature trees so that they're not going to interfere with the hydrolines. But otherwise, it's a broad range of native trees.
Yeah. And would you also do coniferous trees? Because I know in the winter, when you're on a rural road and the wind is blowing and the snow, like just for safety.
Yes, I mean, do we plant what kind of?
Well, coniferous,
Coniferous?
evergreen?
No, we don't plant coniferous because on a roadside, they take up too much space, is the bottom line. And they create a problem on the road. If you're going to plant coniferous as a windbreak on a road, you have to plant those 50 to 75 feet back from the road.
Okay.
And then you're into a farmer's field.
Field.
And Mapleton has been quite successful with their program doing just that and providing some compensation to farmers for the land that they lose. But that's a different undertaking.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm thoroughly impressed that you can plant a tree for $15. I think it's well worth the money and the environmental impact. And so my question was just around the amount of money that would be needed to complete this project or get it to the point where we want to see. And so I think Councillor Shantz answered it as $50,000 per year for 2 years. Is that correct?
That's that would finish our financial requirements. Yes,
Okay, so that's the current ask then. And
that's correct.
Okay,
We've
great.
had some significant private investment, and they've private citizens and corporations who've contributed, and to give credit, the Township of Woolwich has really stepped up.
Good.
When I'm out fundraising amongst corporate and private investors, I'm reluctant to, no one has yet asked me, so where's the region at on this? But I fear that may be the question.
I'm glad that everyone is pitching in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noack.
Thank you. I've been following this progress, your progress, with interest and a little bit of very envious of what you're doing over there. We're from Wellesley Township, so we're neighbors. Did you just a couple quick questions? Did you apply to the environmental fund? Because
Yes, we did.
And were you successful over that?
We have not heard.
We have not heard yet. I wonder if we can get an update from staff on where that is at sometime soon. The other question I had, how are you going to identify priority areas? I mean, it's a big region.
Well, this project is just Woolwich
Yes.
because we have to, we have to start somewhere, and B, that's where we have our volunteers at the moment. basically the township or the region tells us where we can plant. So the region is in the enviable position of having very wide right-of-ways. So there are lots of roads that we can plant on that are regional roads. The township, they have to have a 20-meter right-of-way to be able to plant a tree on it. So there are some roads that are just simply not eligible because they're too narrow.
I'm just thinking off the hat here. I would appreciate it if you have some time to maybe make a presentation to your neighbor, Wellesley Township, and you know, we're close enough that maybe something can be arranged between us. So
We'd be happy to, you know.
This is
we've
fantastic.
learned a few things in the last couple of years that we'd be happy to share. There's no point in having anyone else have to go through that again.
yeah, no, I'd appreciate that. If you do, well, I'll set it up if you have time.
Yeah,
So
if
that'd be great.
if you wanted to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair James. I want to commend you on a very ambitious and obviously a well thought out plan. And I really like the video, and I worry when people talk about planting trees as beautification because there's so much more impact, and I think that will appeal to all of us. I want to pick up on something that Councillor Nowak brought up, and I think Councillor Salonen has this in her area. And it's really not a question to you. It would be of staff when it's appropriate to ask for a report, because this is outside of our budget process. And my sense is, and I'm not omniscient, but I sense that a lot of area municipalities are going to be looking to partner and perhaps replicate what you have done in Woolwich. So I would like staff to come back with a report that would say where this money would come from and how we would make it available to other groups who may be inspired by your example. So not to say no to you, but to say how do we navigate the way forward. So when it's appropriate, Madam Chair, I would ask for staff to bring back a report.
Absolutely. We'll get through the questions and then we'll make sure that that ask is on record. Thank you. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you. My question was just with the 3-year time frame, are you planting different age trees so that in 80 years' time we don't have all these trees die at once? Or I'm just curious.
We're planting them, they're all the same age. Now, realistically, not all of them have the same life expectancy. If you plant an oak, it has a 300-year life expectancy. Crab apples are a whole lot shorter, so it's not a case of sort of instant life and death. But your point is well taken that there needs to be, with anything living, a periodic renewal. You know, you tend to plant them and say, oh, well, there you go, job done. And, you know, 50 years from now, you should probably be starting again and filling in.
Okay, very good, and thank you for your continued work. I know you guys work along with Let's Tree Wilmot, so.
Yes. Let's Tree Wilmot has done some wonderful work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Just one point of clarification, then I'd like to make a motion. Inge, you said the $50,000 ask would fulfill your financial requirements for
And
the
let
next...
us get this finished, yes.
Okay. Because I was gonna make a motion for more, but if that fulfills the requirement, I will leave that. And perhaps as some of my colleagues express interest, we can look to support that.
We can leave the change for Let's Tree Wilmot.
Yes. So I would move that we grant the request of $50,000 for the next 2 years. I haven't done any research on what pot that might come from. I don't know if Mr. Dyer would have a sense. I'm kind of putting him on the spot. If there's a fund available that could support $50,000 a year for 2 years.
Okay, so I'm just being told by the clerk, so we do need to waive the notice of motion in order for this motion. So we need that to happen first. And then I think after that, depending on how that goes, we'll take a couple of minutes, and then you can, if you have it written out, you can provide that to clerks, okay?
Defer the motion.
So do I need to make that motion?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, a motion to waive notice of motion.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan will second that.
She can probably sit down.
Okay. Okay, so it is on your screen now to waive notice of motion as per section 70 of bylaw 22-051, a bylaw to provide rules for governing the proceedings of council and its committees, and to repeal bylaw 00-031 as amended.
Sorry, what's the motion?
We're waiving notice, and then we're going to take a couple minutes so Councillor Shantz can get the actual wording to clerks for the motion. She did say for... Oh, yes. Inga, you can take a seat now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was it not an ask for 50,000 over 2 years? So 50,000 this year and 50,000 next year?
Yes, so it would be
okay, I just wanted to
100,000.
clarify that. And Chair Redmond also suggested a motion where we would look into the finances of this. I sort of agree with that before moving forward with this.
Okay, then that's so you can reflect that with the vote in terms of the waiving notice.
So don't waive notice?
Councillor Liggett, I think we're waiting for your vote.
Sorry about that.
We're voting on the waiving notice of motion. I don't see her yet. Okay, so that carried. Okay. Okay, so Craig Dyer wants to speak to the funding portion of this, and Councillor Shantz will need your notice sent to clerks.
Well, thank you to the chair, and two things come to mind from a funding perspective. One is the request is certainly not in our 2024 budget. At this point, we don't have a fund identified that would that we would use for this request. From a staff perspective, I would suggest that it might be more appropriate for staff to report back at a future date. I think our transportation and planning folks could report back on this request. And I had one other point which I've forgotten. I'll think of it and let you know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Craig. So just to confirm, we already have the request for staff to come back with a report. I do recognize we have a tree planting strategy. This currently is not budgeted for this year. We'll take a few minutes for Councillor Shantz to get the motion sent into clerks, and then we'll come back and vote. I do have a queue list of speakers. We want to get through the speakers? Yeah, okay, so we'll get through the speakers, and then in the meantime, hopefully, Councillor Shantz, you can send in your motion. So moving on to Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, Chair. If I understand correctly, they're done planting as of this week for this year. So I assume they've had the finances for 2024. So to me, it makes sense to wait for the 2025 budget. Now, is that incorrect? You have the funding for this year already? You've already got this year covered?
No, that's incorrect.
So there's a deficit, because you said you're finishing funding this
The
week.
spring planting is finished. There will be another planting, I would hope, it starts mid-October. And so we plant only in the wet times, so
Okay.
spring and fall.
And is that the additional 50,000 you need to cover that?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Redmond.
So this almost feels a bit preemptive because we're not actually reading Councillor Chance's motion, but I would like to move that it be deferred until the report by staff comes back, acknowledging two important things. We haven't identified a source of funding. We have a program already in place, and I have a real issue in making up policy on the fly between budgets. And it's not to say that it's not warranted, and I don't think anybody questions the merit of this program. However, I have a real caution when delegations come often with very compelling needs within the community, and we acquiesce to them because of the merits of it, but it's outside of our budget process. We know last year's budget was difficult. We know next year's budget's going to be difficult. So I would move that we defer this until a staff report come back, and I would look to staff to say what that timing is, very much on the tail of what Councillor Foxton pointed out, which there's not immediate need for this, so we need to navigate the way forward. And again, I would think other area municipalities would love to take a page out of this program.
Point of process, I'm not concerned about the ask, I'm just concerned about the process and order in which we're doing this. We don't have a tabled motion yet, so we can't defer anything until that happens. So I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Chair Redmond, I just would rather that we do it in the appropriate order following our procedural bylaw and Robert's rules.
Yeah, so, and I'll just interject here. So we currently do not have the motion. It has not been voted on. We've just waived the notice of motion. Should this motion, once presented and voted on, be moved and passed, then we could entertain the motion to defer. I also want to comment as well that we've got a series of plans coming back, the environmental, we've got a vegetation, and we've got the tree planting strategy that are coming back. It would make the most sense to defer this when we get a fulsome report from staff. But at this point, I think is the motion ready? Yeah, moved and seconded, and then put on the floor. Thank you. Okay, so the motion's on the screen. We'll, at this point, vote on this, or we've got it moved by Councillor Chance, seconded by Councillor Salonen. Okay.
Is this the deferral?
This is the motion. So I'll read this for you, Councillor Hunick, that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo support the Trees for Woolwich request for $50,000 for 2 years with the funding source to be determined. And we still have debate after this, but I need a seconder for this, which Councillor Salonen seconded. So we will now vote on this.
No,
we don't need to vote? Okay, so now we're, okay. Roberto's rules. Okay. Okay.
So I would now move a motion to defer, and I would look to staff to define what that timeline would look like. And again, this is not the merits of the program. This is how we navigate forward between budgets.
I'll second that deferral.
Councillor Liggett, thank you. Is there any debate on the deferral? Okay, so, all right, go ahead and ask and confirm the timeline.
Yeah, through you, Chair. So the ideal timeline is September, so we could say fall report ahead of budget time, but enough time for us to get all of the elements required. Thank you.
Okay, so this will be deferred until fall, September 2024. Councillor Chance.
So if I can just ask a question of how that would work for timing. The request is for 2 years, so 2024 and 2025. If we're deferring to the 2025 budget process, how does that work?
So at this point, it's not deferred into the budget process. It's just deferred until September, so fall, in order for staff to come together with the report. So there's nothing saying at this point that there may not be funds distributed. We just need the time, and staff need the time to discuss what that would look like and to provide potentially the funding source. So I don't think we're going into 2025. we're just going into fall.
Sorry, this would be debating the deferral. I guess I'm not allowed to do that, right? Okay.
Okay, is there any more debate on the deferral? Councillor Salonen?
I can appreciate that staff want to bring back everything else that you had listed prior. I do think that that is semi-adjacent and not necessarily required for us to make a decision on this. I would say September is too late in my personal opinion. Not knowing off the top of my head, I believe that we're not in session are we back in August? So I would suggest coming back at the August date, because then that at least gives this organization a little bit of heads up if we're able to actually help them or not, opposed to dangling a carrot in front of them. But that would be my suggestion.
Doug, I'm going to look to you. Is that realistic?
Through you, Chair, it is realistic. We just have a very busy August, so happy to add this one to
There's
the
been
August.
quite a number of things added to the August. Okay. So any other debate on the deferral? The deferral motion. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, I guess in response to Councillor Salonen, I mean, I think to our illustrious CFO, Mr. Dyer said there isn't a current source of funds or bucket available. That should be the primary, piece of our decision-making process here. The report is one thing, but the source of funds will be the key part that should very much go through the standard budget process, or will continue to have, and as much as all of these groups are worthy in our community, we will literally have a lineup of folks, coming. So I guess I will be voting in favor of the deferral, and would ask that staff have the appropriate amount of time to be able to come back with a fulsome report.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, Councillor Verbanovic.
Thank you very much, Chair James. Just on the issue of timing, if we're talking about 24, 25 in terms of funding, it's my understanding that the best time for planting new trees is in the early fall, in terms of them, being able to stand, to have their best chance of success. And so I'm just wondering if this timing will still allow them to do work this year or not. And I don't know if that's a question for staff or the delegation.
I believe it was October, but Inga, do you want to just confirm if the time?
Our plantings would occur in October. They start in mid-October. The reality of the matter is, though, that we have to plan that substantially ahead of time. Sourcing trees these days is one of a major challenge. To be fair, September, October isn't going to help us in October. It's simply too short a notice.
Okay, thank you. And so, Madam Chair, just as a comment on the timing, I won't be supporting the deferral. I won't debate the merit of the motion, but I think, as has been indicating, that the timing wouldn't allow us to see this initiative proceed in 2024 in a meaningful way.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting the deferral because even if they don't have the opportunity to get all of the trees, they will be able to get some of the trees. There's nothing saying we have to have 500 trees planted in the spring and then another 500 planted in the fall this year. If they can't get them all, it will be delayed until 2025, potential there'll be 2 plantings then, or 2026. All we're doing is pushing that time frame back, and in the life of a 150-year-old tree, I don't think 6 months is a problem. And I think not following the process for budget is more of a problem, and that's our job, is to be looking at that, not whether a tree is 139 and a half years old at the end of their lifetime or 140 years old. So I will be supporting the deferral in order to keep the process.
Thank you. Any other comments? And then we'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Shantz?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification on process from the volunteers' point of view. There is a business who's working on this and volunteers who are working on this that have a plan, a time plan and a time frame. So while I agree, you know, a half a year in a tree's lifetime isn't much, there is a process from that end as well. I don't mind deferring to make sure we have the proper process. I would say sooner rather than later, though. I think it would be a shame to miss the fall planting because it needs to go ahead. And many of the trees, as you can see, if you drive along our regional roads this year, have been on regional roads already paid for.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the deferral motion now, and then we will vote on that. So that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo defer the motion discussed under item 4.1 to August 2024. You'll be prompted in eScribe. So that is carried. So this is deferred until August, when staff will come back with a report and identified budget potential line. Okay, thank you, Inga. We are now on to item 4.2. Nelson, for President of Conestoga Students, Inc. You can come down. You've got 5 minutes. All right, thank you. Nelson, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair, good morning, members of the Planning and Works Committee. My name is Nelson Chukuma, and I'm the president of Conestoga Students Incorporated, or CSI for short. CSI is the official student association of Conestoga College, representing over 40,000 students, almost 600 of which attend class at Ruder campus, and are likely to be directly impacted by the proposed changes to Route 72. I'm here as a representative of the students to voice our support for these proposed changes. As noted in the Region of Waterloo's report, the demand for existing routes has reached capacity, and the transit needs of businesses, residents, and students are continuing to grow. As such, we are pleased to see various improvements, including making the new Route 62 a conventional route with 30-minute frequency running from 6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. to service course schedules, and ensuring the routes connect to interregional transit options to accommodate rider needs throughout the region and beyond. Sorry about that. While this new route is a significant improvement for transit access, for Ruder students in particular, there are three concerns CSI is hoping to see addressed. The first is regarding bus stop placement. The proposed bus stop is approximately 450 meters from the campus, or an approximately 6-minute walk. While JRT uses 450 meters as the maximum walking guideline for bus stops, future campus expansions are underway, building further southeast away from the stop. This expansion will increase the walking distance to approximately 600 meters away, almost double the maximum guidelines. This is particularly concerning for students with disabilities and/or students taking late-night classes who will be forced to travel further distances in the dark. To meet GRT's existing route planning guidelines and mitigate issues related to accessibility and safety for the stop designed to service the Ruder campus, would like to add a stop either on campus or on Waterloo Drive closer to the campus. Secondly, CSI would like to ensure the potential bus stop has suitable infrastructure and amenities. The region reports that new concrete landing pads for various stops will be built, and we encourage the region to ensure that the stop servicing Roto campus is also equipped with a bus shelter, adequate lighting, seating area, and waste disposal. Bus stops are a key part of the transit system and can impact ridership and user experience. Each aspect of bus stop amenities services various purposes, including addressing accessibility, providing coverage from harsh weather conditions, improving feelings of safety, and reducing the impact of litter on the environment, to just name a few. Now, given the likely high-frequency usage of this stop as both an onboarding and offboarding location for students, as the route is one way, ensuring that the bus stop serves riders' needs is key by including these types of amenities. Lastly, we have potential concerns about the proposed service of this bus route as a one-way loop and not including weekends. Though it is a shorter route, we're concerned about the potential of crowding and the impact of indirect routes that arise when relying on a one-way loop. As all riders will be condensed to one bus, as opposed to spreading out on two, depending on which direction they are heading, this can lead to longer travel times with more frequent and longer stops as more people get on or off the bus, resulting in delays. These delays can impact riders in a number of ways, such as missed transfers or being late to class or work. Additionally, there's the future potential that classes will expand to be offered on Saturdays, which would leave students with Saturday classes without service. As such, CSI hopes that the region of Waterloo will closely monitor the ridership of this route, particularly during the first 4 months of its service, and anticipate the need for Saturday service in the future to assess the potential needs to change this route to be two-way and include Saturdays. Now, overall, we believe that the proposed Route 62 is a key step forward in addressing the growing demand for transit in the area surrounding Roto campus in Cambridge that will benefit students and the broader community who rely on Cambridge Business Park for their employment. CSI looks forward to the implementation of this route alongside the UPass this fall and appreciates the opportunity to offer our input regarding these proposed improvements. We look forward to continue to work with the region of Waterloo, JRT, and all other stakeholders to improve public transit, and we want to thank the region and city staff and our JRT partners for being such great partners and working with us for our UPass. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. I'm seeing no questions from council. Doug, I do have a question regarding our GRT business plan. And can you just comment on the public input in that process?
Absolutely, through you, Chair. So we are, I think as council is aware, launching into our GRT 2025 to 2030 business plan and planning to be out as soon as next month with public consultation kicking off and chances for everybody in the region to contribute to the future of our transit network. So thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So Nelson, please encourage students in those to participate in the business plan public engagement next month. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we are moving on to item 5.1, staff presentations. We do have one today, Growth and Development Waterloo Region. I will now call on Danielle DeFields, Director of Community Planning, to provide a presentation for Growth and Development in Waterloo Region.
Good morning, everyone. This presentation provides a summary of growth and development occurring throughout Waterloo Region in 2023. In terms of the approach to the presentation, it covers highlights from multiple reports, and there's an indication of the report number that it's speaking to on each slide. So with that introduction, I will welcome Amanda Cutler and Ryan, two great members of our team, to provide the presentation.
Thank you. If we could go to the next slide.
Can you just speak up a little bit louder?
Yes. Working alongside our area municipal partners, tracking growth and development activity is an important tool to help us meet the needs of our current and future community. The region of Waterloo maintains robust data sets, tracking growth and development across the region. The information is used by numerous departments in the region, including planning, economic development, water, wastewater, transit, waste management, public health, as well as external groups such as our area municipalities, and the school boards to understand the location and pace of growth of where services are needed, and to understand per capita demands for services. Tracking this information directly aligns with Council's strategic goal of homes for all and assists in informed decision-making. We can go to the next slide. In 2023, Waterloo Region saw the highest single-year population increase, adding approximately 28,000 new residents. This growth was driven by strong residential construction and a significant increase in international students. 2023 saw the highest total construction value, a combination of both residential and non-residential value, with over $1.9 billion of permit value. This figure was driven by strong growth in the residential sector, combined with consistent levels of non-residential development. There were over 6,000 residential building permits issued across Waterloo Region in 2023, with a majority of those units being high-density construction, a 28% increase over our 10-year average. In 2023, the region had 38,898 units in the plans of subdivision approvals process. The supply of units in plans of subdivision has increased by approximately 1,500 since 2022. If we can go to the next slide. The graph shows the annual total population increase in the region by year from 2006 to 2023. 2023 saw the strongest population growth in Waterloo Region, welcoming approximately 28,000 people. Growth in 2023 is nearly double the annual growth that has ever occurred in Waterloo Region, and we believe that this is an anomaly year. Growth in student population accounted for 50% of the population growth in 2023. Recent announcements regarding policy steps by upper levels of government will result in changes in coming years. Staff will continue to monitor as this progresses, not including the increase in student population. Population growth in 2023 would be similar to the level of population growth seen in 2022. You can go to the next slide. This graph shows the number of residential building permits issued by the region, issued in the region by density type between 2014 and 2023. The region continued to see strong intensification rate, with 55% of all permits being issued within the existing built-up area. Overall, residential building activity was very strong throughout 2023, with 6,158 permits being issued. This represents a 28% increase over the 10-year average. The increase was driven by high-density units consisting of 72% of residential building permit activity. This direction is consistent with provincial and local policies, encouraging intensification and development around existing infrastructure, such as ION. A growing trend, primarily in the three cities, is the increase in permits issued for accessory dwellings. These are permits issued to construct basement apartments or backyard suites. These types of permits accounted for 18% of all residential building activity. Single detached building activity has declined over the past 10 years, with 2023 seeing the lowest number of permits issued in the last 10 years. Despite a significant growth in the supply of residential units and plans of subdivision, there are over 8,900 units that are registered unbuilt, of which 2,089 are single detached dwellings requiring no further planning approvals. You can go to the next slide. The supply of units in plans of subdivision represents the overall residential units in various stages of subdivision approvals, with units in the registered unbuilt phase being the closest to building permit. These plans are typically located within the designated greenfield areas, and these units represent roughly 40% of historical building activity, with intensification representing 60% of the residential units built within Waterloo Region. The province requires that municipalities maintain a 3-year supply of lands with servicing capacity at all times. Units that are draft approved and registered unbuilt have the required servicing capacity allocated aligned with this provincial policy. There are over 24,000 units that are draft approved or registered unbuilt, which represents approximately 4 times the provincial requirement. We will be collaborating with local homebuilders and area municipal staff to review the inventory and better understand what factors could hold up units from moving through the inventory, and specifically, if there's any areas we can collectively expedite registration and construction of these units. Go to the next slide. The graph shows the building permits for non-residential space by year, by type of permits between 2014 and 2023. Non-residential permits consist of 3 types of development: industrial, commercial, and institutional. In 2023, permits for new non-residential floor space totaled 2.4 million square feet, a 9% increase over the 10-year average of 2.2 million square feet. Permit activity in 2023 decreased by 50% compared to 2022, which can be attributed to 2 significant industrial developments, which was the Bud Park redevelopment in Kitchener and the Amazon warehouse development in Cambridge, which totaled 1.9 million square feet alone. I will now pass off to Amanda to discuss the development application activity and streamlining initiatives.
Thank you, Ryan, and good morning, Chair James and members of committee. In 2023, community planning reviewed, commented, and/or issued approvals on over 1,100 development-related applications across all of the area municipalities. That includes plans of subdivision, condominium, official plan amendments, zone changes, as well as reviewing consents, minor variances, access permits. So over the past few years, there continues to be a high volume of development-related applications processed by the community planning team, with increasing complexity and timing considerations. Staff work closely with the area municipal partners to coordinate priorities and address any issues through the process. Next slide. So in order to respond to the high volume and increased complexity of development applications, there is a need to streamline the development review process. Community planning is currently working with ITS and other departments to implement a digital development tracking system, which will transform the review and approval process to an automated process, reducing the overall timeframe from application to approval. The project is in direct alignment with the province's housing strategy, the region's strategic plan, and digital service transformation. Funding was received from the province through their Streamlined Development Approvals Fund to assist with funding this project. Next slide. The current state of our process is essentially a manual process that involves many steps. With the shift to a digital system, we will shift to a digital integrated system, which will increase internal efficiencies, reducing the time from application to approval by 25% and reduce the admin time spent by planners on applications by almost 50%. It will also result in real-time actionable data to support decision-making via reports and dashboards and ensure responses are provided within required timeframes. Next slide. So we are currently focused on the implementation of Phase 1, which is the internal process, and expected to be operational by the fall of this year. Phase 2 will create further efficiencies through digital data exchange between the region and area municipalities, and we will start to engage with the area municipalities in this work in the coming months. We ensured that the system that we are implementing is agile and can respond to change in the planning framework as needed. It will also interface or speak to systems that the area municipalities use. So in summary, the region of Waterloo experienced strong growth in population and development activity throughout 2023, and we are continuing our efforts to streamline the development review process and expedite approvals and commenting timeframes. That concludes the presentation. Thank you very much.
We have a question from Councillor Shantz.
Thank you for the presentation and the statistics. I couldn't keep up with all of them, but I know they're embedded in all the reports that we have. I do have a question, though. You talked about reviewing 1,100 applications. I'm just wondering how many of those didn't comply with the ROP and with the original vision for the application?
Thank you for your question. We'll defer that to Amanda.
So, and unfortunately, I don't have an actual statistic on how many didn't comply, but I would say the majority of the applications that we process do result in recommendations for approvals. There are, out of the 1,100, a handful that end up at the tribunal, very few that end up with recommendations for refusal, but there are some of those. I don't have the statistics on hand. Part of with the tracking system, we will have a much better sense on that type of data that we will be able to provide, but I can say anecdotally that of all of those applications, most are recommended for approval, often through resubmissions or reviews of technical information to revise plans. Sometimes it's not exactly what was submitted that ends up for approval, but.
Can I have a follow-up on that?
Yeah.
What kind of things might need to be changed, or like what would cause you to send something back?
Well, for example, if there were compatibility concerns with respect to a sensitive land use adjacent to an industrial facility, through the review of the application and submission of technical studies that demonstrate compliance with various guidelines, provincial guidelines on compatibility, the application could be revised such that there could be appropriate setbacks, warning clauses, et cetera, that get imposed such that the application could therefore move forward with recommendations to support. That would be one example.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Selenin.
Thank you. I'm just curious in here, did all of these applications meet their provincial deadlines for turnaround times?
Through the chair, staff does work always to try to meet the deadlines. We don't have the specific data in front of us in terms of the application timelines, so there may be a few within there that did take longer due to complexity of the applications, as Amanda indicated, but generally we are meeting the deadlines.
So if we're meeting the deadlines, I can appreciate wanting to find efficiencies, but why are we spending $2 million, specifically over $1 million out of reserves to update if we're meeting almost all the deadlines?
Thank you for that question. We do feel it's really important as we are adapting to increased complexity and volume of development applications to put technological improvements in place, cultural improvements in place, and process improvements in place internally across anyone who touches a development application, as well as in collaboration with area municipal staff. The development tracking system is something which we do feel will bring a benefit in terms of some of the efficiencies that Amanda went through in the expediting our part of the review of development applications. It also affords us the ability, in anticipation of updated roles and responsibilities, that we can have an agile system to support an area municipal-led system in the future.
And where's the consideration for Bill 23? I know it was a bullet point in the report. I'm just feeling this is a bit of a make-work project.
Thank you for that question. So there has been a significant amount of time invested into the development tracking system. In terms of Bill 23, we do anticipate there will be an updated role for the region in the planning system, if that is proclaimed as anticipated. And that will see the region shifting from an approval authority or commenting on some types of applications to a commenting body. So this type of technology will allow us to put processes in place to ensure that we are responsive and meeting the deadlines in an area municipal-led system.
Thank you. Councillor Benovic.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the presentation. Yeah, I guess that's partially where my question was going in relation to Bill 23, and really trying to understand the benefits of this system when much of the planning responsibility before the end of the year, based on comments from provincial officials, will be moving to area municipalities. And so I'm just struggling a little bit on the investments being made here to understand how that is going to benefit, and B, if the intent is that this system is going to transfer to the area municipalities, what role have the area municipalities played in its procurement and development?
Thank you for that question. So in anticipation of Bill 23, we did have a report, it was last November or December, which outlined what the updated roles and responsibilities are anticipated to be of the region moving forward. And we do still anticipate to have a role within the system where there's a continued regional interest, but it would be a shift in roles and responsibilities. So this system will allow us to be agile and to respond to what that system looks like in the future. So in terms of speaking to area municipal systems or transferring the system itself to area municipalities, the municipalities are aware of the work that has been done through the planning heads. We do give periodic updates. And currently we are focusing on getting it up and running per our current roles and responsibilities, but it will be agile. And in the second phase of the work, we are going to undertake a lot of collaboration with the area municipalities and ensure that it is able to talk to their systems.
So again, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, I know right now, for example, the average length for a regional OPA approval in terms of City of Kitchener applications has been 98 days. Technical regional review of the application is completed during the city's initial 120 days before a staff report is prepared. But it's really, been creating challenges and timelines. I have a hard time believing that, creating this online system is going to move these applications forward in a timelier manner. That's going to significantly change these things. I know one of the other challenges for our teams have been around pre-submission comments. We generally don't get them a week in advance to provide to the applicant of the advanced staff meeting that our staff have with them. And so I'm wondering, if you can clearly elaborate the steps that we're taking in order to correct some of these things, because they are critical in terms of us being able to meet the deadlines that the province has put on us as area municipalities who are responsible for approving these applications.
Thank you for that follow-up question. So you are correct in terms of technology itself will never be the solution on its own in terms of process improvements. It is one of the components in terms of expediting our review and approvals of planning applications. There is ongoing communication and dialogue in terms of applications themselves, as Amanda outlined earlier. And we do work with area municipalities in terms of the priorities of the applications. We will still, as I indicated earlier, have a role in the system moving forward. This will allow us to automate, for example, when an application comes in, any of the deadlines, review, et cetera, and we'll ensure that there is the culture and the processes in place internally as well moving forward, and again, ongoing collaboration with the area municipalities.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have to be honest. I am struggling with this. I look at what our experience just on OPAs has been, which has ranged from 44 through to 155 days. 165 days to get regional sign off on applications, and when we're starting to approach half a year, that's a big problem. I mean, it's that time is money, and it's impacting housing getting built, and it's impacting on costs and affordability. And so I think we fundamentally have some work to do internally on a process point of view for the time period that we're still in this role between now and the end of the year. But that's really where the focus needs to be, and focusing on how we're going to make sure we're very nimble from a from the perspective of commenting in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Banovic. Councillor Erb.
My question is not related to the timing, so I'm not sure if the timing is right for my question, or I'll just change the narrative for a second. It's related to the 20% of accessory apartment buildings. So how does that compare to previous years? And is that partly because of some bylaw changes that have happened in individual municipalities to speed that up? Because I think that's a significant number that is going to help solve the housing issue.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Erb. Ryan will respond to that.
Thank you, through the chair. That number has increased substantially over the past few years. In 2020, accessory apartments represented about 8%. 2021, it went to 9%. 2022 to 16%, and now 18%. And we have had some changes in the city of Kitchener that have permitted those units. And then there's also some provincial changes to allow 3 units as of right on a residential property.
So primarily it is related to the changes that have been made in the municipalities and, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So I have a hard time supporting this because let's say you get the system and we're now in May. So let's say you possibly get it up and running by the fall. And then by the fall, Bill 23 has put into place and you no longer are involved in planning. And we've just spent $2 million that we could have put into the budget for 2025 to deal with issues that we know need to be dealt with. So I have a hard time even fathoming this. Thank you.
Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following on the comments of my colleague mayors, when we look at the planning authority being downloaded to the municipalities, is going to happen, and it'll take effect as Councillor Foxton stated by fall. I'm concerned that we're spending this kind of money for something that's going to be a moot point, and we're at the municipalities looking for the monies to be transferred, downloaded to us along with the planning authority. And I look at this money and I'm thinking this should be going to us to be able to do what we're going to need to do, because this type of work and the hiring of the staff to do it is going to be extremely expensive. So I'm really concerned about this.
Thank you, Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair James. I have to tell you, I find this report stunning. And I'm firmly of the view that when area municipalities do well, the region does well. And when the region does well, area municipalities do well. So there's been some, I think, marked points made by some of my colleagues about the processing time. So I guess I'm trying to square the fact that we're going to invest to make the processing time better. And I guess through you, Madam Chair, to staff, we will still have a commenting role. My understanding in Bill 168 was while they made some of the changes under Bill 26, I believe it is, for 3 of the regions, we were carved out. So we don't know when our end date is. And to my way of thinking, working with area municipalities in improving the current role, which we will have, I think, extended at least through 2025 at some point, as well as our commenting function would be improved. And I would think area municipalities would welcome that, noting that they will have an increased at some point role in planning. So I'm wondering if you can just comment on why now is the right time for this investment and how this investment will actually benefit not only from the regional level, but also from area municipalities.
Thank you. Through the chair. This investment will allow us to automate many of the systems which are currently done manually, which is important under our current roles and responsibility, and is also important, as you indicated, in updated roles and responsibility in anticipation of the proclamation of Bill 23 moving forward. So for clarity in terms of some of the questions today, it is the region will have a role moving forward in terms of the planning system where there's a legislated mandated interest as a landowner or where we are a service delivery provider. So we will move forward with the developments of the system. As I indicated earlier, it will be agile. It allows us to respond to what the area municipal-led planning system looks like in the future. It will allow us to automate processes, ensure collaboration internally through our review process, as well as area municipalities moving forward.
And I would like one additional question. It's actually to Mr. Dyer. And that was comments some colleagues made about how this $2 million would be better devolved to the area municipalities. And I think it speaks to a concept that some area municipalities have been under, that there is a tax point transfer or a transfer of money. And I guess I have a really hard time understanding how we would levy any money at the regional level and then devolve it to area municipalities specifically for this planning aspect. And I'm wondering if you can comment on it, because it's something that I think is a false premise.
Through the chair, I think I would say that any time the responsibility for a service moves between one level of government to another, then there's a relatively straightforward adjustment that is made, and that would be that, say in the example for a service that is moving from an area municipality to the region, at the time that would happen, the area municipality would cease to budget for and levy for that particular service, and the region would start to do so. And then vice versa for a service that's being moved from the region to the area municipality. I believe it to be as simple as that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to remind everyone this report is for information. We do have a couple of round twos in the queue. I'm going to move up Councillor Deutschmann, though, since you have not spoken on this as yet.
Okay. Thank you, Chair James. Yeah, so my understanding that this was for information only, and it's clear, I just want to clarify. So you've considered the ultimate change that could be proclaimed and how this technology will assist the region to continue to contribute and work together with the area municipalities, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And has this money, for clarification, is the money for this program that's being bantied about, it's already committed, isn't it, for this software?
Through the chair, the money is budgeted for in terms of our operating and I believe capital programs as well. We also did receive some money through the Streamlining Development Fund from the province to fund this program as well.
And just for clarification, please, that money budgeted was in our last budget, correct?
We have had funds which have been in previous budget years when we initiated the project, and we do have funds this year as well as anticipated funds coming.
So when this council approved that change, we were already well aware of the changes that were happening at the province and what was going to be happening between the area municipalities and the region. So we already put thought into this decision. It seems like we're now rehashing a decision that was already made. So I'm fully supportive of the work you're doing. It's only information only today. Certainly if someone's going to try and bring a motion to halt a process that started, I will be fully opposed to any changes that are attempted to be made in that regard. Thank you. Oh, sorry, do you have any other comment with respect to what I brought up?
Thank you for the point. Just a quick clarification or supplementary information as well in terms of the budget, that we have been agile and we have made decisions along the way in terms of, as I indicated earlier, our current roles and responsibilities, and then scoping in terms of future roles and responsibilities moving forward. But it is a very agile system which will allow us to be responsive to the ultimate planning system in terms of an updated framework in anticipation of Bill 23.
Well, that sounds very much like the Regional Waterloo Way, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deutschmann. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you. I'd like to clarify for any of my colleagues that think I'm trying to bring forward a motion to stop this. I'm simply asking questions for our taxpayers and our tax base, because at the end of the day, it's all of our residents who own property and are paying property taxes, regardless of what level that goes through. I just want the most efficiencies and the best process for building more homes and for doing our part, both as a region and area municipalities, to help with the housing crisis, as well as, of course, build economic development opportunities. So that's where my questions are coming from. I don't appreciate when other people try and suggest different things being done through questioning. That's the point of debate. Yes, I do understand this is for information. Thus, I'm trying to collect information through asking questions.
Councillor Urbanovic.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order. It was directed to me, the comments that were just made.
That was not directed to you.
We're not
actually.
debating this. No, we're not debating this right now. I think
Okay,
we've had
thank
enough discussion. Councillor Urbanovic, you are last in the queue, and then we'll wrap this up since this is for information. So Councillor Urbanovic.
Well, thank you very much, Chair James, and I appreciate it. It's for information, but I think, you know, if it was purely for information, staff could have just emailed it to council. If it was put on the agenda, clearly it's to engage in a dialogue with council, and I appreciate the opportunity for that. I also appreciate the acknowledgement from Mr. Dyer around the transfer of tax room that does occur when there is a shift of responsibilities. I remember when, for example, transit and waste came to the region a number of years ago, and there was that respective transfer of tax room. And I would expect the same will happen at the time when ultimately the planning comes forward. My understanding, when the province announced that they were initially proceeding with 3 regions, the anticipated date was by the end of the year for the remaining regions, based on public comments made by provincial officials. The question that I wanted to ask, though, is, you know, part of what we really need to get down to is what some of the, you know, something that, quite frankly, a technological system isn't going to solve. And I look at, you know, a number of my colleagues across the region who don't have delegated authority, for example, yet, and I know have been asking for this for many years. This is a process improvement that would save significant time and money. And yet they haven't been able to get that. And so I'm wondering if staff can comment how that will, in fact, move forward potentially as part of this process or a similar process.
Thank you for the question. There is a process a framework in terms of delegated authority for plans of condominium and plans of subdivision, which does exist, which is council approved, and which Kitchener does have delegated authority for those applications. That is available to any of the municipalities. If there is a desire to move forward with that and do that review in advance of proclamation of Bill 23, we're very open to having that conversation with staff. And then in terms of the anticipated proclamation of Bill 23, that would essentially present a shift in the roles and responsibilities where the approval of applications across the board would be area municipal led, with the region as a commenter.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, there was in fact council direction, I believe it was for Cambridge, maybe going back as far as Councillor Craig was mayor of Cambridge, as an example, on that issue, and yet that hasn't moved forward. Yet this is sort of being prioritized in a work plan, and I'm struggling a little bit about why that's occurred.
Thank you. I haven't had any updates from the staff at Cambridge recently, but I would ask if Amanda has anything to supplement. She is welcome to.
Thanks, Danielle. So I don't have any further updates. I did just want to share that council, or remind council, that they approved conditions relative to delegation of plans of subdivision and condominium back in 2016 and 2017. There was a further report, and then subsequent to that, part lot control was delegated to the municipalities who requested part lot control. And we have been waiting for the conditions to be satisfied to bring forward bylaws to move forward with delegation. So as Danielle mentioned, there is a framework set up in order to move forward with the region delegating approval authority to the area municipalities. We have seen the experience in Kitchener work very well when a framework is in place. So those conditions were established several years ago, and there just has been a number of things that have happened in between over the years that those conditions have not been fulfilled, and we have not moved forward with those. But that is still an option, and certainly something we would be happy to continue discussions with the area municipalities on.
Well, I'll leave that at that. I'm sure any of my colleagues who may have thoughts on that will raise them with staff appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, Matthew, you wanted to provide some comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the nature of the report. So 6.1.2, 6.1.3, and 6.1.4 these are typical annual reports that we bring before council. So we do that year over year. We're happy to revisit the process if you would like to, but I think it's the way we've used in all recent years to be able to share that data broadly with the community.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton?
Very quickly, if I may, Chair, it was about 2016 when Helen Jallet moved that Cambridge be given delegated authority. Doug Craig seconded the motion. Council voted unanimously, and nothing has happened since then. But regardless of that, thank you for the reports. I think we should move on. It's going to be a long day.
I absolutely agree. I want to thank staff. I'm going to shut down the discussion now. This is for information. Staff, I want to thank you for the work you were doing. Since November of last year, we have been turned upside down. We are seeing this play out at council right now in terms of who should be doing what. We need to be doing this together. We are behind in housing by decades. And I think everybody is collectively trying to do what they can. Sometimes the process doesn't take as quick as it needs to, but I trust that you are doing what you need to ensure that we get those homes built. And you know, it's unfortunate that it's turned into this back and forth, and I appreciate, and I think I speak for colleagues when we do appreciate the work that you've been doing given the circumstances for the past number of months. So thank you.
Chair.
Chair.
I was on the speakers list unrelated to
okay, Councillor Harris.
To the deck. Just a question of staff. So on page 15 of 141, population growth driven by strong development activity and international students. I had a chance, I got taken aside by the Conestoga Students Inc. folks earlier on. I'm just wondering, because I know even the college's own projections of international student growth, I mean, they blow them, even their own projections out of the water. I really would like to know from staff what conversations you have with our post-secondary institutions to get a sense as to what numbers they may be bringing in to better help the region plan for the critical infrastructure that we need to have here to support, you know, the population, especially or specifically the international student community that we've seen, you know, basically drop a city of Stratford, you know, into our community. That puts significant strain on, you know, regional resources, taxpayers, and just the quality of services that we provide. I'm wondering, you know, if you can just help me understand what conversations you have on a regular basis with these institutions, and how accurate do you feel the information is coming to be able to help us plan? So sorry, Chair, hopefully that was a question.
That is a perfect question. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So during the region's official plan process, we did have extensive conversations with the post-secondary institutions. They did indicate, they did provide us with some indication of their plans for the next few years. Now that only got us to about 2023, 2024. What we're seeing today has exceeded what was stated at that time. Every single year, we collect enrollment information from the post-secondary institutions to inform this report. And we also do, as staff, sit on a committee, Town and Gown in the city of Waterloo. Their staff leads that committee, which includes members from all three post-secondary institutions. That report was presented to the City of Waterloo Council in the fall of 23 and provided an outlook of housing demand and housing supply.
So I guess just to follow up, do you feel you're getting, you know, as you know, accurate or good information to help us plan from these institutions, or could there be more done from their part to be able to help us, you know, with the resources and the investments we're going to need to make to support this growth? And I know the federal government, you know, obviously has made some significant changes that will likely, you know, impact the population growth from that side of things. But, you know, do you feel you're getting good information from these institutions to help us make these decisions?
Could we ask the speaker just to come a bit closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry about that. We certainly could benefit from more information. We largely rely on enrollment projections that year, and we don't have much information from a long-term perspective. The institutions don't provide that to us or any other municipality throughout Ontario.
Okay, more work to be done there, obviously, so thank you.
Okay, Councillor Shantz, your question?
Thank you. It's more of a request. I wonder if I could get a summary of what those requirements are for delegated authority. I know at one point, one of it was like an in-house counsel as opposed to a contracted counsel. I'm not sure if that changed, but if I could get a list of what those criteria are, I'd appreciate it.
We're happy to follow up with that.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. That is it for our presentations. We are now moving to the consent agenda. Are there any requests to move anything? Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question about 6.2.3.
Okay, so we will pull that from the consent. Councillor Bravanovic.
Thank you very much. I have a question about 6.1.1.
Okay, so we will pull 6.1.1 and then 6.2.3. Okay, do I have a mover for the Councillor Foxton, Councillor Wolf, you second that? Okay, you'll be prompted in e-scribe. And then we'll start with 6.1.1 and then we'll go to 6.2.3.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for staff for bringing this forward.
Hold on, Councillor Bravanovic, we're still voting. Give us 30
sorry,
seconds here.
okay.
Councillor Harris, can you vote, please? Okay, so that's carried. Okay, 6.1.1, Councillor Verbanovic.
Thank you very much, Chair James, and thank you for staff for bringing this forward. I know Habitat for Humanity has been quite anxious about this for some time, as I believe they originally made the application in early November. Is there any reason why we couldn't bring this to special council today? I realize it would require waiving of notice. But as we are getting into construction season, I know in speaking with them, even the 2 weeks saved would allow them to move forward in a more timely manner, especially after they've been waiting 6 months for this. So if there's no concerns from staff, it would be my intent to do that at special council. Just wondering if I can get a comment from staff.
Okay, Councillor Urbanovic, just give us 2 minutes. Clerks is just advising what process needs to take place. Okay, so Councillor Urbanovic, there's no issue with adding it to the special council meeting tonight. What we will need is a motion at special council to add this to it.
Okay, great. I'll do that at that time. In the meantime, I'll move this right now.
Perfect. And then this evening, we will need 2/3 to move that. Okay, to vote in favor. Okay, thank you. So Councillor Bravanovic has moved it. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Hunick, okay, you'll be prompted in e-scribe.
clarification. What is the motion? Like, let's enter an agreement.
It's on the consent agenda,
Yeah, so it was-
6.1.1. So this evening, so we're going to, hopefully this is all passes right now, but we're going to add this to the special council meeting this evening, so it's ratified tonight, rather than waiting until the 22nd.
So is that fine for like the regional solicitor to do what they need to do to get the work done?
Yeah, and I think there's precedent with doing this before. Okay, item 6.2.3, Councillor McCabe.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair. I just had a couple of questions about the pedestrian crossovers, because my understanding was that there was going to be some added at Weber and Union Street in that area to facilitate based on discussions we had a few months ago, to facilitate students on the, I get the directions mixed up, but on the one side, like crossing over to more safely to Elizabeth Ziegler, because right now it's a bit of like a game of chicken crossing Weaver Street, because there's the primary school there. I thought that was my understanding, that there was going to be a couple of those pedestrian crossovers added this year.
Through you, Chair, I may phone a friend if I could.
Through the chair, I think that is being, I know we actually talked about that crossing last week with staff. So looking actually towards a signalized intersection. So a little bit more than just the pedestrian crossings that are in today's report.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then my other question, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I was observing a number of kids crossing at a heavily used crosswalk. And my question ultimately is, can these be widened? Because I was watching some kids cross, and like there was over 100 of them, on their way to and from school, and just the time it took because of the width of these. And it just seemed to me, and again, I'm not a transportation expert, but that it was challenging for them to kind of get across in a really timely manner when you think of like all the vehicles coming at them because of the width of these crosswalks. So I'm just wondering if there's, in the fullness of time, like an ability to make these wider, or does that really implicate the street too much, or if that's something that could be looked at?
Through you, Chair, it's a really good question. So most of the guidelines related to road design, and in this case crossings, comes from MTO Traffic Manual 15. Appreciating that this is a geometry game, right? So the width is the throughput. I don't know the answer in terms of design today. I'm happy to take it away and look at it. I think I think it's a compelling question argument for the capacity needed, especially in this case with children's safety. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe, are you going to move this?
Sure, yes, I'll move this.
Seconder, Councillor Foxton? Okay, he'll be prompted in e-scribe. Okay, so that is carried. We are now moving on to the regular agenda. Item 7.1.1, equitable service, the automated C-cart base. I believe I'm going to call in Commissioner Rose to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair James. This report is for council approval for the next region-wide waste collection contract. The contract will start in March 2026, when our current contract expires. The use of compressed natural gas, renewable natural gas trucks will help the region meet its corporate target for lowering GHG emissions and supports climate-aligned growth to steward our natural environment and shared resources as we grow. We will, with this contract, implement the 4-day pickup week and the use of carts for cart collection, which was approved by council last year. The cart collection will help with litter control and provide a safer work environment for the drivers. and the public. The trucks have cameras on them which give a 360-degree view around the vehicle, so the driver can see any people or obstacles around the vehicle. The value of this contract is in line with what we were seeing in the industry. This is due to higher costs for trucks, inflation, and supply and demand. The entire process for this contract was overseen by a fairness monitor from the writing of the RFP to the evaluation process due to the high value of this critical service. I'm here with Director John Arsenault, the Manager of Procurement, Lisa Evans, if you have any questions, and Craig as well.
Okay, seeing no questions, I need a mover for this and a seconder. Councillor, oh, it's in the, okay, Councillor McCabe, didn't see you.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I'm just wondering, through this process, was there any discussion around increased waste diversion? Was that the place for it, or is that something that that should occur at a different time and place? Like the waste diversion that we were talking about, clothing, textiles, additional food, etc.
Yeah, through the chair to the councillor, that will be coming forward with our waste management master plan.
Councillor Salonen?
Thank you. I just wanted some clarity on the automated cart-based. So am I to understand that that is like the arms that kind of go in and flip it up, similar to like what Toronto has?
Yes, through the chair, that's exactly it. And I also describe it that way as well with my hands.
Yeah. It makes sense. So I'm just curious in terms of when we're notifying people, are we going to have, like the City of Toronto, our own waste receptacles that are approved by the vendor for purchase or for free? I'm curious, like from that point in a year's time, how we're getting our residents ready so that their garbage, when it's put out, can be properly collected.
Through the chair to the councillor, if I could ask the director to come down and answer that question. I know we have a fulsome communications plan that he can provide some more details on.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. We are putting together a communications and implementation plan, and I would suggest it would be in a similar vein that we did for the last collection contract, where there was a lot of changes. So it's a stepped procedure where we go through an awareness process with the residents, preparation, implementation, and then monitoring after the fact. We'll be coming back to committee later this year with the details of that plan and how that will be addressed and how that will be rolled out.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question on the cameras. Now that they have 360 view, does that mean that the criteria has changed for certain spaces that have turnarounds for emergency vehicles, that these vehicles will be able to go in and turn around and collect waste?
I believe the answer is no, but I will refer that to Director Arsenault to answer.
I will confirm that the answer is no at this point. The level of service that residents have today in terms of the frequency of collection, number of bags put out, things like that, we're basically just converting the technology to an automated cart system and that, but everything else in terms of the level of service, frequency, and that stays the same, all those policies. Although it will be looked at as part of the Waste Management Master Plan.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Urbanovic.
Thank you very much. Just a couple questions. When we look at the significant additional cost that's that's being contemplated here, it's going to have a significant impact on our budgets going forward, both from an operating and a capital point of view. Has staff done any work to look at whether or not whether it actually be more affordable for us to bring this back in-house as it once was many, many years ago, in light of the kinds of increases that we're seeing here?
Through you, Chair. Yes, we have looked at that, not recently in the sense of since we got this result, but we have looked at it and have determined that we can't do this any cheaper. The costs are the same for both of us, whether it's public or private in terms of receiving the equipment and what have you. So we're quite comfortable that we've worked with our staff in the past to talk about this, and we don't feel we can do this internally.
So do we have any sense of what's driving these significant increases?
Yes, so the biggest increase is certainly labor and the equipment costs. So just for some examples, the cost of the typical collection truck in a 4-year period has gone up 50%. So that's a cost that everyone has to bear in terms of whether you're doing it privately or publicly. And labor as well, it appears to be a bit of a reset since the pandemic in the sense of where the labor costs are as well.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, if I'm reading this correctly, the annual operating cost is going to go from 15.8 to 33 million. That's over 100% increase. Is that correct?
That's correct based on today's budget, yes.
Plus the 25.7 million in capital costs.
That's correct. The capital, the 25.7 was put there knowing that was the estimated cost for the carts, yes.
And going this route with the carts will actually save us money?
Ultimately, it will in the sense of retention of staff, service provision, and litter control. I think the biggest driver for us is really the industry is going that way. We would have found difficulty getting quotes and bids to maintain the entire program under manual collection.
Okay, and the last question I have is, I believe there's ongoing dialogue going on with the area municipalities in terms of the downtowns. And so how does that factor into this contract? And or how will it factor into the contract in terms of our BIAs in the 3 cities? And I'm not sure if the townships have any arrangement in their downtowns or not.
So we are continuing a separate downtown waste services review with the intention to come back to committee later this summer. We're aiming for August on that specific component. We intentionally pulled that work out of this residential contract, knowing it could be somewhat different, just to see where it lands and see how the methodologies and see how the levels of service might be different. We did, however, put in this contract some provisional pricing that would allow us to bring some of that work into this contract if it made sense.
Okay, and so you may not have the answer today, but can you get to us how much of the this contract has set aside for the downtowns?
I think you're right. I don't think I have the answer for you today.
Don't worry.
I think it's fair to say, though, just like all the cost increases we're seeing across the board, if we're looking at it independently, it will. We're going to see a similar sort of cost increases.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Verban.
But as I understand, just as a final follow-up, that number is already included in here. So if I understood you correctly, so if you can send that to us afterwards, that would be great.
So just for a point of clarification, we asked for provisional pricing for work that we could be doing under the downtown services. It isn't part of the price that's been put forward here. We would have to add it in when if and when that decision was made.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris.
Thanks, John. So just to clarify, so MTerra will be awarded the garbage and green bin collection, and remind me, or us, is Miller going to pick up the recycling through the Pro?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's our understanding. It's a bit quiet out there in terms of what's happening with the producers, but our understanding is that's the way forward post-2026, as Miller will have the contract or has the contract with Circular Materials to do the recycling, yes.
So there's no plan for the recycling will stay status quo. Our blue bins will be the boxes. It'll be just the garbage And the green bin, I guess I'm just curious, like when we'll start kind of, educating homeowners of the changes in because there's going to be a size. Obviously, the bin will have to be dropped off. It'll be fairly large, I'm assuming. I'm trying to think where I'm going to put it at my place now, but just kind of, I'm assuming you'll have some sort of marketing campaign, but lots in advance for these things, or just kind of maybe for those that are viewing online, just to maybe give them a quick 411 on what to expect, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's correct. As I mentioned earlier, we will be coming back to council later this year with a fully scoped out, like a detailed communications and implementation plan that will have all those specifics. But in essence, it's 2 bins. One's a 240 liter, the other's 120 liter, 240 liters for garbage, and it would be equivalent to the 3 bags of garbage put at the curb. You can appreciate it's more vertical and on its own, so those issues around space limitations or concerns there. In essence, it's just taking the spot of where garbage would have been put before, either in a bag or in a container. And similar for the green cart, it is a slightly bigger version of the existing ones that people have today.
Yeah, hey, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we're in South Kitchener, and there's lots of wildlife out there, and sometimes you just got to put it out at night, and then you leave early in the morning, only to find that you should have just put it out in the morning, because it's just a damn mess. So, looking forward to it, and good luck to your team on rolling this out across the region.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunick.
Okay, thank you. This seems like a rather large price tag, as people have noted, but I'm just wondering, can you provide some conjecture or imagination? If we do not approve this, what's the alternative? Because you mentioned the garbage industry is going this way.
So the alternative is we have a contract that's coming to completion with trucks that are aging. It gets more difficult to do it. So we've already used the extensions on that. So we need to move forward and have stuff collected. This is the path forward, or we feel is the best path forward based on industry discussion. We've looked at continuing at kind of status quo, how we do things today, and in different manners. And what we're seeing, we did a jurisdictional scan from other municipalities and over the last 2 to 3 years. And I should caveat here is this is all being done in the same time frame as Blue Box transition. Every municipality is experiencing an increase, and significant increase, even if they've maintained levels or reduced the level of service and did try different techniques. So the biggest concern is if we don't pass us our ability to collect waste come March 2026, because the lead time is needed for a contractor to get the appropriate equipment and carts and get their fleet together, that could be trouble.
Thank you. And a follow-up question on a different note. Currently, garbage disposal sometimes leaves the bins in spots that make it very difficult for folks using mobility devices to get around. And so I'm just wondering, given that the new bins sound bigger and heavy duty, has there been consideration in terms of accessibility of where to place the bins and how they should be replaced and so on?
Yes, excellent question. And within the contract itself, there is wording on that and accessibility, and in terms of assisting with the walk-up service for where it's needed. So that's certainly been taken into account.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention the consultation with the BIAs. I have noticed that consultation process, it is virtual, except for one up in Waterloo. And I would respectfully ask that there be consideration for in-person meetings with the other BIAs so that they become personable and they can talk and not be involved with everybody else in the region, all the other BIAs. I just find that virtual meetings are not always the best way to go. And in particular with people who are used to regularly dealing one-on-one with their own clients, I just would like to see that consideration happening. So if you could take that away, it's similar to the Go Train consultation that was held. It was supposed to be held just in Guelph, but it was his staff brought it down to Cambridge, so we could be part of that discussion as well. I'd like to see that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liggett, are you prepared to move this?
I am.
Okay, I've got a mover. I need a seconder for this. Councillor Harris, okay. You'll be prompted in eScribe. Councillor Hunick? Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that is carried. We will now move for item 8, the council tracking list. That tracking list has been received for information. And next is item 9. Oh, Councillor McCabe, you had about the tracking list yet? Go ahead. Other business? Okay, so we've got other business. I've got 3 councillors, Councillor Foxton, Councillor Liggett, and Councillor McCabe. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, Chair. And with your indulgence, we have an issue within North Dumfries. This is on Branston Road where a resident, the drainage off the road is going into the resident's property. They have to run a pump 24/7. This has been going on for 4 years. We've been working with the region, trying to get them to put in a system that will allow the drainage to go back into the pipe of the region. We have hired engineers, and engineers have designed a project, and they've implemented it. We've done it in 4 or 5 homes in the community of Ayr, and it works very, very well. We need the region to agree to it. Now, there was some discussion from regional staff that thought the water coming in was affluent. So we took the water and we took the sample to the Board of Health, and they said, no, this is road runoff. So we're guaranteed it is road runoff that's impacting it. So I'm asking for Ms. Rose to make a commitment to get this, look into the system we've already built and allow it to happen in the Branston Road one. And if that's not possible, then allow the township to have an encroachment so that we can do it.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Foxton, for bringing this up. We have been working with township staff, speaking with the engineer who wrote the engineer's report, and we do have a couple of questions that we need to have clarified. And certainly your suggestion regarding an easement is something that we have not had a discussion yet. So I would be prepared to say that late summer would be a time we could get back to you on this matter.
Thank you so very much.
Okay, so that will be added to the tracking list. Councillor Wolf, wanted to comment?
Mine is other business.
Okay, so I'm adding you in. Next will be Councillor Liggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering if mine should be under public health. It has to do with public health and community and health service. It has to do with a property that we recently purchased, and it's sitting unused. And so I had an ask for that property.
Okay, we can add that to the community and health as other business. Okay.
I'll wait for that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. Through you, I had a question about the regional bylaw around geothermal, where geothermal can be used and not used in Waterloo because of a the high water table, there is some restrictions, which I get, but I believe with some of the new technology and that bylaw should be looked at and updated. So I'm just wondering if that can be done, or I don't know what the process is for doing that, but certainly there are a number of companies, developers, institutions that are interested in using geothermal and believe that it should be, but that regional bylaw, I think, needs to taken a look at. So I'm wondering if that's something I could leave with you or we could have some discussions about.
Commissioner Rose, you want to follow back or?
Yes, through the chair, we can definitely follow up with you. It's not, the region of Waterloo does have a policy around geothermals. In the city of Waterloo's case, the city of Waterloo actually has a zoning bylaw respecting geothermal as well. So maybe there's some confusion around that. We can discuss that for sure.
Perfect. I'll leave that with you two. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Madam Chair. Recently it was brought to my attention that Waterloo Region Economic Development Court changed their name to Waterloo EDC, or Waterloo Economic Development Court. And speaking with Councillor Craig and Mayor Leggett, we had some concerns about that. That once again, we're sort of lost in the thing, and I thought it was something that maybe should have come to the region, since it is our Waterloo Region Economic Development Corps that we all pay into, and for it just to be Waterloo EDC, so I checked their website. Yes, that's what it is now. That's just Waterloo. We're not one city yet, and I just think that someone wanting to invest in Cambridge or in Kitchener or in the townships, that this is misleading, and I just question that.
Okay, Graham, do you want to respond as Rod is not here, or Matthew?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. It's a great inquiry, Councillor. I think we would have to follow up with the corporation and get back to you. But I would just note that they are arm's length, that they do make independent decisions, but they certainly, the expectation is they typically would consult on such matters. So we will follow up and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Verbanovic.
Thanks, Chair James. And just on that, this is an issue that I've raised a question before as well. But just to be clear, and in fairness to them, their official name continues to be Waterloo Region EDC, and they've used Waterloo EDC throughout. This actually goes back to when it was originally formed, and there was a meeting that actually involved Mayor Craig, Mayor Jaworski, and myself, where there was a discussion around that, and along with some of the others, and there is a recognition that there is some branding that comes from the university and so on. That's beneficial to all of us collectively. Having said that, I do agree, and I've raised this with them as well, that I think Waterloo Region, needs to be reflective more so in their advertising and so on. So I just thought I would offer that information in the absence of Mr. Regier being here.
Thank you, Councillor Foxton.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Councillor Bavanovic was saying, I remember when it was called Red Sea. It was WREDC. And I don't know if they didn't like the idea of Red Sea. It had maybe a Russian connotation. I don't know. So I don't know why we ever changed it. But and it went to Waterloo EDC. And that gives the impression that it's Waterloo, the city of Waterloo. And so I would also like that clarified. Thank you.
Okay, so we will get clarification. Councillor Craig, I saw your hand up.
Well, it's on the tracking list. I want to go back one step, if I may.
Go ahead, you've got the floor.
Yes, I noticed that the truck diversion summary or overview will be taking place in, I think it was the end of August. And I'm wondering if we can move that up, because if we're going to study it, it would be good to do it before the downtowns become alive with people in the middle of the summer, because I would like to see a further I'd like to know what the update is and if we have to do more enforcement faster. That's the question.
Do you want to respond, Doug?
Yeah, just to clarify, there are two truck items on the tracking list. Are we referring to?
Cambridge. He's referring to Cambridge.
The downtown Cambridge area.
The other one's North Dumfries. I love that look on staff's face.
Council Committee update, truck diversion compliance.
That was a simple question.
Slated for winter of 2025, and the ask is to bring it forward.
Well, that wasn't 2025, was it?
I don't have staff in the room today to confirm.
Okay, so
if I
let's
may-
have staff follow up with that
Yeah, that's
instead of,
fine.
okay, is
I'll
that
be on
okay?
it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so now we will go into, actually, that's it for this meeting. The next Planning and Works Committee meeting will be on June 4th, 2024. We need a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Erb, Councillor McCabe, and you'll be prompted in e-scribe. Oh, I didn't. Okay, that is carried. What's next? So we will, this meeting is, I need a mover and a seconder to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Hunick, Councillor Nowak. Okay, you'll be prompted in e-scribe. Okay, so not, yeah. That's it. Okay, that is carried. We're going to take a 10-minute bio break and then we'll go into closed session.